Welcome, everybody. Thanks so much for coming. I'm Belinda McCauley. I'm the Executive Director of the Beverly Hills Bar Association, and I am really honored and excited to be moderating today's discussion. We are here to tell you about a great new pro bono program that BHBA is launching with an initial pilot and then more to come. And we're going to walk you through, how this came about and let you know what the opportunities will be for lawyers to volunteer, what training resources will be available. And most importantly, you're going to learn about the community and some of the clients that you are going to have the ability to help. So just super enthusiastic about today's program and all the information we're hoping to share with you. If you've done pro bono work before, and particularly if you've tried to set up a pro bono program, you know that there are several keys to a successful effort. The first is that you have to identify an unmet need, or at least one that is underserved. And the second is you have to find enthusiastic volunteers who have the skills to help. And then the third is that you have to train those volunteers so that they ably assist the clients in need. And as we're going to discuss today, BHBA has done number one. We've identified what we think is a really important need. And we've done number three. We've partnered with Public Counsel, our longtime partners. In fact, we'll talk about that a little bit later, and on providing training resources. But now we need your help with number two. We need volunteers. We need those to be either you or people that you can recruit, hopefully both. And we're hoping that you listen to and watch today and are motivated to sign up. So quick outline of what we're going to do today. First, you're going to hear from Alexander Rufus Isaacs, who is on our executive committee of our Board of Governors at BHBA. He's going to provide some background. This is his brainchild. This is his project. His passion for wanting to do something good here is what brought us to today. And then you're going to hear from Alfred Lomas, who is the founder of Inner City Visions, which is a fantastic 501c3. And he'll tell you was born of his own personal transformation. They provide wraparound services to clients in South LA. And he's going to tell you about what some of their needs are and how we plan to help. And then Rachel Stein from Public Counsel is going to give a brief overview of the type of help we plan to provide in the pilot of this program, which I'll get to in a minute. She'll be doing a longer training that you'll be able to sign up for soon, but we wanted to give you kind of a sneak peek so that you could understand, just how, just what the scope is of what we're talking about, give you a preview of the great training that you'll get, and the direct impact that you can have. And then at the end, we're going to leave lots of time for question and answers. We want you to be free to ask questions about both the program and the clients that we're hoping you'll all be able to serve. And we have several community and philanthropic leaders with us today who can help answer those questions in addition to our speakers. So first, Zan, Alexander Rufus Isaacs. Zan, to people who know him and people who are introducing him and are trying to save some syllables like me. Zan is a very successful litigator in the US and in England. He focuses on business and defamation and entertainment cases. And he is also our second vice president here at BHBA. He's going to be president in a couple of years, and we are very excited about that. And Zan, during COVID, when so many pro bono programs were, including our own at BHBA, were either shuttered or significantly reduced because of closures, social distancing, et cetera, Zan said, I want to find a way that we can help. And he also realized that there was an opportunity to use some of the technology that's become so much more commonplace during COVID, including Zoom and video conferencing, to maybe provide help beyond the geographic scope that BHBA was able to do before. And so he will tell you why he reached out to Inner City Visions in particular, and what appealed to him about their work. But he also learned in those communications what a broad scope of need for legal services the clients at ICV have. And he had to undergo kind of a journey, which maybe he'll talk a bit about, to refine how can we be most helpful. We have so many lawyers within BHBA with so many skills, but where is the space in which we can be most helpful and in which we can kind of take on a scope of work where we can have impact, but where we're not taking on so much that we risk failing, because it's so important that we succeed and that we provide these critical services. So Zan, to his credit, came in and said, you know, this is not a space that I've done a lot of work in. Tell me what you know. And he talked to various organizations who provide pro bono services in this area. He talked to lots of lawyers within BHBA about the services they might be able to provide. And he landed on this great topic that Rachel is going to talk about later today, ticket advocacy or ticket dismissal. And this has to do with driver's licenses. And I think we all probably take for granted how critical a driver's license is to employment, to education, to childcare, particularly here in the LA area. And for many people, particularly those who are coming out of foster care, or in the case of ICV clients, in many cases, were gang involved, there are fines and fees keeping them from either getting or restoring their driver's license that are prohibitive. And we as lawyers can help. And so I'm going to let Zan take over here and talk a little bit more about what led him to this, and then we'll hear from Alfred. So Zan, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Belinda. I really appreciate your intro, and I want to thank everybody who is attending today. Thank you to our partners, and thank you to the other people who I'm going to mention now who have helped us develop the program so far. What I'd really like to do is to give you an overview of how the program's evolved and how we'd like it to develop in the future with your help. Above all, we want to provide our volunteers with a positive experience that doesn't eat up too much of your valuable time, while at the same time providing our clients with a real and meaningful assistance. Belinda's right. The idea for the clinic first came up about 6 months ago during the pandemic. The BHBA, I think we're very aware that we have this proud tradition of providing pro bono services. We, in fact, co-founded Public Counsel, which is now the largest pro bono law firm in the nation. And after all, our motto is lead, advocate, serve. And while we've been doing fairly well on the leading and advocating, some of us felt that maybe we could increase our efforts to be of service to the community, and that perhaps we should be looking for opportunities outside of our geographical base and comfort zone of 90210, and see what opportunities there were to help our fellow Angelenos who live in disadvantaged areas. And in doing so, for us to learn more about this extraordinarily diverse city that we live in. The obvious need, I think, for a starting point was to find partners in those geographical areas who could help us find potential clients for us and also help us with the screening, which is an important part of this process. And before I became involved with the BHBA, I was on the board of BAFTA Los Angeles, which is sort of the British entertainment organization in town. And at BAFTA, we had a really great community program in South Central that was run by a dear friend of mine called Katie Haber. And so this really all starts with Katie. It was Katie who introduced me to a guy called Joe Mendoza, who is a former officer with the LA Department of Parks and Recreation. And it was Joe who introduced me and highly recommended both Alfred Lomas at Inner City Visions and Scott Ogler of A Better LA, both of whom are with us here today. And Scott and Alfred and I had several conversations in which I learned a lot about them and their organizations. And it became clear that the people in the communities they serve would really greatly benefit from our pro bono legal services. The question we then asked ourselves was, how should the BHBA best go about providing these services? From Alfred, it became clear that His communities were faced with all sorts of problems that might have legal solutions: elder abuse, residential evictions, human trafficking, domestic violence, crime, immigration. The list goes on. And this was, frankly, this was a little intimidating. I mean, I asked, so how can we identify and train volunteers to provide real help to clients in all these areas? And I then made, I think, my smartest move so far, which was to reach out to the experts in this field, Public Counsel, and ask them for some guidance. And I was swiftly introduced to David Daniels, who is their director of pro bono services. And David patiently listened to our plans and aspirations and so responded that, he clearly appreciated our intent and our enthusiasm, but he gave us some really excellent advice, which I'm going to summarize in really 6 points. Firstly, many of the problems involved highly technical legal issues. To train volunteers to a level where they could provide meaningful assistance would be a huge undertaking for us at the BHBA. Secondly, there were existing organizations that provided specialist pro bono help with particular issues, such as, for example, domestic violence. And it would be better to identify and form relationships with those other organizations and refer potential clients to them rather than trying to handle them ourselves. Thirdly, we would be better advised to start by choosing a niche area in which there was demand for legal services and in which the issues were not too complex and in which the purpose was well defined and achievable with a reasonable time commitment, as opposed to some open-ended matter that would require tens or even hundreds of hours of pro bono work, which obviously we don't want to do. Fourthly, at the same time, the BHBA members have a very wide range of skills, and that diversity would be a valuable resource for the pro bono community, because we could help with issues that other more specialized organizations were not equipped to handle. For example, they might get a client asking for help with arrangements after a parent dies, and Public Counsel apparently has no in-house resources to help that person. But obviously someone from the BHBA's Trust and Estates section would have the experience and could handle the matter. So we're very interested in pursuing that side of things. Fifthly, David said, your lawyers are going to need what he called cultural humility training. And by that he meant that we would need to become familiar with the environments in which our clients in this program live their daily lives, the types of problems they encounter, and frankly, a lot of the lack of resources that we take for granted. And this all brings down to the fact that our relations with our partners like Inner City Visions need to extend beyond simply accepting referrals from them. We will need their social workers to stay involved and help manage the clients, to ensure that they attend meetings with the volunteer lawyers, that they attend court, they sign documents, they respond to requests for documents and such like. And at the same time, we should be available to them to answer whatever questions they might have about legal services. And so it was at this point in the process that we formed a pro bono committee. And currently the members are Martin Berman, Maggie Stewart, and myself, and Belinda and Adam Siegel are our ex officio members and great supporters. And we've essentially decided on a two-phase approach. And in the first phase, which Belinda referred to as the pilot phase, I think while we're learning the ropes, we'll only be taking on clients for what Belinda referred to as ticket advocacy cases. This involves seeking a court order, dismissing tickets and warrants for disadvantaged youth. And this might not sound like something very important, but to the young people who can't get driving licenses, it most certainly is. For example, Inner City Vision specializes in helping minors who are victims of sex trafficking by removing them from dangerous environments and finding them jobs and safe places to live. They need to work, but public transport is too dangerous for them because of the predators. And the minors often have warrants or tickets which prevent them from getting a driving license. So the solution is to apply to the court to dismiss those tickets and warrants. This is not a difficult area of the law, and Public Counsel has kindly offered to provide training by Rachel Stein, who's with us today, and who is the director of Public Counsel's Children's Rights Project. And she's going to offer this training, which she'll talk about in a minute, to all these volunteers. We're also going to be accepting clients for the same purpose from the Children's Rights Project, who are mostly, I understand, foster youth. So our first need is for BHBA members to volunteer to do a ticket advocacy case on a pro bono basis for one client. That's the starting spot. There's no need to have any prior experience. All you need to do is to attend a training session by Zoom with Rachel, which will be scheduled for some date in the next few weeks. And in a minute, she'll give you an overview of that process. And we also want our volunteers to attend a training session by Zoom with one of the ICV staff volunteers to prepare us for representing their clients, which we'll also schedule in the next couple of weeks. And then after the training is over, we'll allocate clients to volunteers. The clients will already have been screened either by Inner City Visions or this Children's Rights Project to ensure that they're sufficiently mentally competent and also that they're deserving of our help, because our aim here is to help clients who are trying to work their way out of adversity rather than those who, for want of a better word, are part of the problem, shall we say. So, and once the volunteer accepts a client, we ask the volunteer attorney to enter into an attorney-client agreement with the client. And we have some templates that we can share with you so that you have an attorney-client relationship with the client, which is going to help. Now, there are administrative issues here, and the Beverly Hills Bar office staff is already under a very full load. So the administrative burden of administering this program will initially fall on the pro bono committee, and this will involve coordinating with our partners, connecting with, making referrals to other pro bono organizations, coordinating training, matching volunteers to clients, monitoring cases that are handled by our volunteers, and keeping statistics as well, so that in time, we hope to be able to apply for grants to pay for a part-time or even a full-time pro bono coordinator for the office. So our second need is for BHBA members to volunteer for the committee and help us with this work, and also to steer the program generally. And our hope is for the future is that once we've refined our internal procedures and we have enough volunteers for our ticket advocacy cases and the committee, that we will be able to accept a wider range of cases, which we'll call it the second phase of the program. And to that end, we seek members with expertise in all different areas of the law to volunteer to take a matter that falls within their particular expertise. For example, in addition to the example I gave earlier about a client whose parent had died and needs probate advice, we may have clients who may want to start a business, or who may want to sue somebody, or someone who's been sued, or they may have a criminal law matter for which public defenders aren't available, or they may have been injured, or they may have been unfairly dismissed, or they may want to have a contract drafted. And so we may not be able to enlist your help immediately, but it would be incredibly helpful to know which of you are interested in volunteering and your areas of expertise. And in time, we intend to make regular visits to our partners' locations and to meet potential clients and our partner staff workers in person. And we hope to be able to work with additional partners as the program develops. Belinda has designed a Google form for everyone to complete who's interested in volunteering. I believe it's up in the chat function now. And I do ask that you complete the form so that we know who you are and what your interests are and what you'd like to do. And above all, I do hope that you'll find your participation in this program interesting and fulfilling, and I'm always available to answer questions. So with that, I'll hand it back to Linda.
Thanks so much, San. I think it's evident to everybody how much time you've put into putting this together and getting us to this point. So thank you for that. Now I'm going to introduce Alfred Lomas. And Alfred is, if I could pick just one word, he's inspiring. He was raised in one of LA's poorest neighborhoods, and as he tells you in his personal story, he became a gang leader. And ultimately, he transformed his life. And then he channeled that transformation into creating this nonprofit, Inner City Visions, that provides that kind of help and that kind of assistance, that transformation to many others in the community. And so I'm going to turn it over to Alfred to tell us all about ICV and their work, their wraparound services that they provide, and how BHBA's Pro Bono Clinic will fit into that. Alfred.
Wonderful. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I got to start out by saying that my 3-year-old daughter just got home, and what a blessing, I tell you. So you may hear some dogs barking in the background, maybe some yelling in the background, and that's perfectly fine. I'll tell you why, because I am very excited about a new beginning that I have, and this ties into our programs and our impact in the community. With sharing just a little bit of my background, I was born into a severely disadvantaged family, and I made a lot of wrong choices in my life. And I'm thankful for the people that were later put in my life that allowed me to have this transformation. It's not just for me. It wasn't just good enough just to stop drinking and only start working, but I had this pressing desire to give back to my community and to really help those that were voiceless in my community. You see, when I was 7 years old, I started to smoke marijuana. Experts say because of the trauma, I was self-medicating. So by the time I was 12, I was probably a full-blown alcoholic, I would say. And, I'm not victimizing this, only giving a snapshot into what that childhood trauma later became now our efforts to help children that are severely disadvantaged. So this is really about standing shoulder to shoulder and giving help to children and families that could never repay us back. Because at the end of the day, we can all think of someone that was there in our lives. And I think of my journey as well, with a Better LA, and you'll hear some later on today from a Better LA is an organization that was a partner group with us. They help fund our efforts, and just having that type of support has allowed us to create some really remarkable outcomes. And I'd like to share those with you. So, we were incorporated in 2007, and it was birthed out of a need to reduce violence in South LA. We're located in the epicenter of South LA, and they were experiencing unprecedented amounts of violence. And Pete Carroll's formed a Better LA, and they began to fund and professionalize and train intervention workers to be peacemakers. And I got to tell you, I'm so excited to share with you today that Public Health in 2015 evaluated, LA County Public Health evaluated one of our initiatives around a Safe Park program. We had a 43% reduction in murder and violent crime at that park. Well, we knew we were onto something, and we said, you know what, let's go partner with the local schools. And to date, we have an MOU with LA Unified School District. We provide on-campus services for marginalized youth, children that are at risk, some children that may even be involved in gangs. And having that type of partnership and that type of standard to work alongside principals and PSA counselors has really, really been a tremendous collaboration in helping our communities. And finally, we began to see and hear about in 2016, we began to hear, I'm sorry, I lost you there, about human trafficking and child sexual exploitation from one of our board members, Kevin Malone. He was a former GM of the Dodgers, and he was doing international trafficking work before people even knew what trafficking was about. In 2016, he said, Alfred, it's grim in LA. Domestic sex trafficking is an all-time high. Gangs are controlling a lot of these issues in South LA. No one really wants to undergird the community effort. What would this look like to fight this head on? Well, me and my wife, we had a discussion, and we certainly weren't going to turn a blind eye to this. And I'm also very thankful for this collaboration, because in 2017, around 17, 18, Cal State LA helped provide the evaluation for our theory of change and logic model around our programming. We had an 85% success rate in client retention for children that were between the ages of 12 and 17 that had been victims of sex trafficking or were sexually exploited. And we were like, wow, we know we're onto something here to help these families and children. So we created a family-based case management as well, because we knew it wasn't just about providing services and mental health and the wraparound for the child, but it was really the entire family that needed help. So to date, we're able to really provide family-based services where we can go into do home visits and we can assess the family. And if they have an uncle or a cousin that's in the gangs and they want to leave the gangs, we're able to provide that exit strategy for that individual. We're able to secure a job for them. We're able to provide the intensive support that anyone in that family may need, from mental health to any type of linkages for resources, because we know that it's not just about helping that child, it's about helping the entire family. And to date, I'm so excited to tell you, I'm excited about a few things here, but the other piece is that our retention rates and job placement rates to date are well above 90%. It is about numbers. This is about resources. This is about strategic impact. This isn't simply just about, kind of just throwing money around and trying to, this is really about undergirthing us with the right kind of help, and really for individuals that need the help the most. So as a community-based intervention agency, we're really at the eye level for a lot of these challenges that are occurring. During COVID, we were able to feed 2,000 people a month. We create, most places were running away from the COVID shutting down. There was a group of people, churches, we all got together and said, let's start feeding the community. So the final piece that I have to this as well, because there's really is a lot. I mean, we're discussing complex social issues. We know that we're not simply the only tool or the magic bullet, I would say, but it's really a collaboration and this collaborative model that we've been able to affect change and help our children. But I just got an email last week. The state assembly's office, Reginald Sawyer for our district, we have won the 2021 California Nonprofit of the Year. And I tell you, from a background that I had come from, I was on a clear-cut trajectory to a life of death, early grave, prison. But it was because someone believed in me. It was because someone took that chance to say, hey, you know what? Let me help this guy. And that has been the fundamental building block for everyone in our organization to know that we are here to help anyone that needs the help. So we appreciate and we thank everyone that allows us to be on the forefront of this, but in a collaborative model. It takes everyone to do this. And I am certainly thankful and I'm honored to be a part of this. And you'll hear from a Better LA, you'll hear from Dr. Ed, a phenomenal educator. In fact, one of the centerpieces of our work is around education. We also know that a lot of the children that were exploited sexually and have been abused, a lot of them because of mental health challenges, they don't go to school. So several years ago, I asked Dr. Ed, I said, Dr. Ed, we work in a local high school, but a lot of these young girls, Lord bless their hearts, are 12, 13 years old. They're not going to school. They're afraid. They're living in fear. I said, what can we do to create education piece for these young girls to have that sustainable change, to have that education so that they can become empowered? And I'll tell you what, Dr. Ed ended up creating an alternative school for these credit deficient girls. And that has been the centerpiece of our work, because we know that if these children are in school and then employed, that they're on that track to being to reach their God-given potential, just like everyone deserves in this world. And with that, I believe I'm done.
Thank you so much, Alfred. I think people got a snippet of what Inner City Visions is all about. I know that once I heard you talk about it I wanted to be involved. And so I think a lot of our members will as well. You've also been instrumental in really helping us identify this need that is the focus of the pilot program here, the ticket advocacy piece, driver's licenses being so critical. So now I want to introduce Rachel Stein. She's from Public Counsel. I think many of you may know that BHBA founded Public Counsel 50 years ago. It is a tremendous source of pride for our organization. Public Counsel is now the largest pro bono law firm in the country, and they do unbelievably important work on a huge range of issues. But one of the ones that is really a signature project for them is their Children's Rights Project. And Rachel Stein is the supervising attorney for the Transition Age Youth Program at Public Counsel that's part of that larger Children's Rights Project. The TAY program provides legal and social work services to young people who are currently or formerly system involved, to ensure that they have access to housing, education, benefits, healthcare, and fundamental rights. And Rachel also has experience personally in the areas of dependency adoptions, public benefits advocacy, and employment law. As part of our clinic, BHBA members are going to have clients from both ICV and also from Public Counsel's program that Rachel runs. And Rachel is going to give you an overview today of what the project will look like. And then she's going to do the more in-depth training. I think you'll see after today that you're going to be in very, very good hands in terms of getting the training that you need. So Rachel, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Belinda. Thank you all for having me. I'm so glad to be here. So yeah, today's just the brief kind of teaser of ticket advocacy work. And then I hope you'll join me for a later training that has a lot more detail. So like Belinda mentioned, I'm the supervising attorney for the Transition Age Youth Program. We provide legal and social work services to youth ages 16 to 24 who are currently or were formerly in foster care in LA County. So when we refer to TAY or Transition Age Youth, we're talking about young people ages 16 to 24 generally who are currently or were formerly in out-of-home care, either through the juvenile dependency court, meaning the foster care court, or through the juvenile delinquency court, what we call the probation side. And we provide direct services in various areas, including housing advocacy, family law, restraining orders, public benefits. We help youth who are eligible to re-enter foster care with that process. We help youth file name and gender change petitions. We help them seal their juvenile records, and we help them try to get their tickets dismissed. And so yes, TAY is part of the larger children's rights program, which also includes the Adoptions Project, the Legal Guardianship Project, and the Education Rights Project. So one of the reasons we provide ticket advocacy to our TAY clients is because they're particularly vulnerable to, number one, receiving tickets, and they're also, secondly, disparately harmed by the negative impact of having tickets on their record. So TAY are particularly vulnerable to being, stopped for traffic citations and other types of infraction tickets. Often young people of color are driving around in over-policed neighborhoods, more likely to be pulled over. They often are driving inexpensive vehicles that might have visible defects like a cracked window, a broken taillight, and often they lack the money and support necessary to have a lawful license that's registered and insured. So all those things, place them at risk for getting tickets, and then also make it more difficult to resolve those tickets. We handle a limited subset of the different types of tickets that are out there. We only handle infractions. That is the lowest level offense. When someone receives a citation, we do not handle misdemeanors. And some types of offenses in traffic are called wobblers, meaning they could be charged, excuse me, either as infractions or as misdemeanors. If they are filed as a misdemeanor, then the citation will be held by the criminal court, and the young person is entitled to a public defender. So if we confirm that the ticket is a misdemeanor, we will refer the person out to the public defender's office. So part of our initial vetting process is to confirm, is this an infraction or a misdemeanor? We also only handle tickets that are pending in LA County. We do not handle out-of-county citations due to our limited capacity. We have pretty small team, and also because there are just very different practices in each county, and we're most familiar with LA County, so we focus our efforts here. We also don't handle parking tickets due to our limited success in this area in the past. And again, given our limited capacity, we've decided to focus our services on non-parking infractions where we have a bigger impact. So these are some of the things we'll be looking for on the front end when clients are referred to us. Coming back to before what Zan and Belinda were talking about in terms of the impact of traffic ticket work, I don't really think it could be understated, especially for the young people we work with. Getting a citation dismissed for our clients can help them get a failure to appear charge dismissed. It clears the hold on their license. It relieves the risk of them being towed or getting additional tickets for driving on a suspended license. It also helps our clients who are system impacted or involved youth avoid another stressful court appearance because we can appear on their behalf without them being present. It also protects them from fees and fines that they can't afford to pay, from having to go to traffic school, from having to do community service, which many people don't realize that community service has its own fees associated with it that our clients often cannot afford to pay. And it helps them avoid points on their driving record. And even if we're not able to get a ticket dismissed, we usually will be able to get at least the fines suspended or reduced, which is also a big benefit to our clients. And this work is really so critical because what we're doing is we're helping remove barriers to independence by making it easier for young people to travel, to attend school, to attend work and important appointments. We're also opening up additional job opportunities for them that require a license. Many different types of jobs, do require a license, or it might just not be feasible for the young person to get to a job they're interested in through public transportation in LA. So for all those reasons, this work, it might not seem like it initially, but when you look at it, it can really have this ripple effect that really benefits a person and helps potentially change their trajectory a little bit in terms of what options they have. So I'm just going to briefly describe the steps of our advocacy, but as I said, there'll be a subsequent training that will go into a lot more detail about all of this. But in short, when you first take a case, you'll want to schedule the ticket for an arraignment hearing. That's sort of the first step in the process after you've signed the retainer with the client. By scheduling the ticket for an arraignment hearing in LA County, that results in the hold on the person's license being lifted just by scheduling the ticket for hearing. And that's sort of a recent change in policy in LA County. And often there's a big backlog in the court hearings. So the hearing might not be set for 3, 4, or even more months out. So that gives plenty of time to prepare for the arraignment. So the next thing you want to confirm is whether the ticket they're being that they've received is for something that's correctable. For example, like a broken tail light, or let's say they were cited for driving without proof of insurance, but they actually had insurance at the time. So you want to ask your client if they have proof of correction, if it's the type of thing that can be corrected. Then you would get started on preparing the papers. And so the papers that we prepare in these cases are informal, but still written requests for dismissal in furtherance of justice. California Penal Code Section 1385 does allow the court to dismiss these tickets in furtherance of justice based on various factors. And so we have templates that we could share with you that are motions where we've basically laid out that standard and explained the types of factors that we think are relevant to that analysis. In addition to a small written submission, we don't call it a motion because technically you're not allowed to submit a motion, but this is sort of an informal written request to the court to dismiss in the interest of justice. And then we'll also prepare a declaration from the client supporting the assertions in the motion. And so the types of things we focus on in those motions are how the encumbrance on the person's license is holding them back from being able to achieve stability and independence. We often include information about our clients' personal history with the foster care system and how that might have impacted the circumstances around the ticket. For example, sometimes our clients have many different placements over many years. They move from one foster home to another, and that might mean that it's more difficult for them to even get notice that they had a ticket, and that could result in a failure to appear citation on top of the underlying ticket. So that's something we can kind of explore potentially in the motion and supporting declaration. And again, we have templates for both of those we can share with you after the later training. After we prepare the papers, we get set to attend the arraignment whenever that was scheduled for. And at the arraignment hearing, we will submit the written request to the judge seeking dismissal and furtherance of justice. If the judge denies that request, then we would enter a not guilty plea for our client, and the matter would be set for trial. And then at trial, you'll likely be assigned a different traffic judge. So there's actually a second bite at the apple. You get another chance to seek dismissal, again at trial, in the interest in furtherance of justice. And another way, so it might be dismissed on that basis at trial. Another reason that these tickets are often dismissed at trial is because if the citing police officer does not show up to the trial, then that's a basis for dismissal as well. But let's say that the judge denies your request for dismissal and the police officer does show up to testify, then you would proceed with the trial hearing and question the police officer. And raise any available defenses. And so again, this is something we'll talk about more at the later training. So like I said, a lot more details in the near future, and hopefully you'll attend, but we definitely get a lot of these referrals on a regular basis. So we would love to partner with you on these types of matters. It makes a big difference for our clients. And that's everything I had. I guess I'll pass it back to Belinda.
Thank you so much, Rachel. First, just quickly, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to drop them into the Q&A, and we're happy to answer them. But following up on your presentation, Rachel, I just wanted to say, early in my career, 20 plus years ago as a lawyer, I was a deputy DA and for several years. And one of my biggest takeaways from that time was how the traffic system interacts with the criminal and how many people get caught in the vicious circle just based on an inability to pay. I frequently would end up on my criminal calendar with people who otherwise had no contact with the criminal system purely because they had a failure to appear that was issued as a misdemeanor on a traffic citation. And many times citation times for the court hearing are issued and they are not compatible with a person's work schedule. And so if a person's employer won't let them get out, to deal with this, for example, they fail to appear, suddenly they have a criminal charge for failure to appear. Also the circle of suspended licenses that, a license gets suspended because of failure to pay fees. And then the person gets a misdemeanor ticket for driving on a suspended license, which itself carries so many points that can resuspend their license in and of itself. And I was so gratified to learn about your program that helps keep especially vulnerable folks out of that circle, or at least tries to interrupt the circle. So you're doing such good work. And I can just say from the practical perspective, having been on the criminal side of things, that was one of my most troubling takeaways, I'll say, is that so many people got caught up in that. So the work that this clinic is going to do to help on that front, I just think is super important. And I can tell you has a very real impact. Obviously, Rachel, you live this every day. You help people with this every day. But I know that there are, many more people out there that we can help, get out of that circle.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very well said.
So let's see. I want to introduce, before we take any questions, if there are any, our other guests who joined us today, and just so that they can introduce the work that they do in the community. Dr. Ed Robillard is a longtime former principal of high schools in South LA, and he has a doctorate in educational leadership from USC. There's a USC theme here today. today. And he's a retired commander in the U.S. Navy. He and his wife founded the educational program that Alfred referenced earlier in his remarks. So Ed, could you just take maybe a minute to tell people about the services that you all provide in combination with Intercity Visions?
Sure. I think Alfred kind of laid it out pretty well, but we have essentially what's called like a little option school. So we take in students, in some cases, students that Alfred has found that are completely out of school. And then we work with the local public schools, which I was a part of that system. And they send us students that just aren't going to make it in the high school and they're going to drop out. They come to us and we help them. My staff are tutors, to help them with the curriculum. We work with independent study schools, several of them, to graduate. We just had 3 students just graduate last month. So we're very proud of the work we're doing. My wife and I we met. I come from a very small town, so coming to LA and being an inner city high school principal was a cultural change for me. But I met my wife, who was living in Watts at the time, and we were actually married not far from where our center. And our center is Alfred and I are in the same location now. So hope that helps. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ed. And finally, I want to introduce Scott Ogler, who is on the board of A Better LA. You've heard A Better LA mentioned a few times here today. Pete Carroll founded this nonprofit. And Scott, can you give us a quick minute about the work that A Better LA does? My understanding is that you really specialize in matching resources to community organizations.
Thanks, Belinda. Yeah, that's right. We're all about collaboration. We started in about 2003 when Pete Carroll was driving to school every day at Notre Dame game week and heard about gang killings on Monday, retaliations on Tuesday, more retaliations, ended up 7 people dead by the end of the week, and said, what can we do to change that? And one of the things he found is all the organizations, all the government organizations that deal with that were doing so independently. And so the first thing he did is let's get LAPD and LA Sheriffs and Department of Social Services, probation, get all those groups talking together. And let's also look at the grassroots, the community intervention groups that exist but aren't communicating at all with those groups. And Officer Curtis Whittle, who's also on this, can tell you about how that wasn't a welcome thought at first, but he kind of was part of that group that led the way to create that collaboration. Well, so originally, A Better LA was all about funding community interventionists and doing that and creating a model that they thought could prove that it was a lot more efficient to invest up front in groups and create this instead of dealing with the horrendous cost of the violence and the results of that. And so in doing that over the initial years, a lot of the funding portion has now been transitioned to government organizations. So now what we do, because of the branding of A Better LA and because of the great hearts of the people still involved, we're able to continue to connect services like when Zan reached out to us and said, are you interested? And between he and Katie Haber and BAFTA and all that stuff, all those groups, it's like, this is a wonderful opportunity to further help what we're doing. And what Alfred and Dr. Robillard talked about is those other ways to collaborate. It's not just one group that can help, it's when you get multiple groups together, what a difference you can make. And the fact that you all would care enough to try to make a difference and want to be part of this is really humbling, and we really appreciate that.
Well, thanks so much, Scott. I know I speak for myself and probably others that we're humbled to be able to participate. So thank you. And this is last, but definitely not least, I want to introduce Curtis Whittle that you mentioned, Scott. Curtis has this incredible story of having been a police officer who did gang enforcement work, and then now is a community advocate. And I think his perspective on some of the families and individuals that our members can help through this work that we're going to hopefully connect you to is really important. So Curtis, could you speak a little bit about some of the people that we can help and the sort of community needs that you've identified?
I want to get in there, but man, you guys got me a little emotional about this because of what you guys are getting ready to do is going to change the whole system that's been set up that we're talking about. And so the system was set up to be difficult for the people that you're trying to work with right now. And so coming in there and re-evaluating that and helping them out is going to change the whole landscape, in the legal system. Now, as far as the law enforcement is concerned, this is what I say is so funny. We kind of get left out of there because I was introduced to Alfred through a sheriff. And so when I met Alfred was giving me his visions about what he wanted to do in the community. And for him to get into the school, you know what it took? It took law enforcement. It took law enforcement to get him into the schools because he was in the schools, but they were really suspicious about them, his group. And so I had to come in there and had to blend that in with them because I knew the supervisor of the district, right? And so when we got in there, all of a sudden, Alfred was able to really do his stuff. And he showed me exactly what he can do, right? And so from there, I took him to the county school board, who is in charge of all of schools. And he spoke in front of all the teachers that was having problems with the problem kids. And they felt him. They knew exactly what he was talking about. And so when I talk about the collaboration, this is what we're talking about now. What you guys are doing right now is going to really set this thing apart from everything else. That's why I say I'm so emotional and so interested. And so I will do whatever it is to assist. The training, whatever you need me to do, I'll do. I'll be there for you to do that because it's important right now. And Sawyer over there in Sacramento, yeah, I work with him at the mayor's office. So I know him very well, right? And so it's just very important right now that we all get together and place people in their proper places is the most important thing right now. You stay in your zone. You do exactly what you're supposed to do and be helpful. It's just me. And so Zan, look, I can't tell you, man, how much respect I have for you, brother. But like I said, it's just so much work to be done. And it's at the right timing right now. I'm listening at you and I can follow you anywhere, young lady. I can follow you anywhere up there. I'm serious. I'm ready for you. And so I want to partner up and do whatever I need to do to help out to continue this with that. So that's it. I don't mean to cut myself short, but I know I have I got a lunch date at 2:00 across town. I do, and I moved it back because it was actually 12 and I realized I wanted to be here because you guys are so important to me.
Thank you so much, Curtis. That was so nice of you to move your lunch date. And those are a luxury now. We went so long without lunch dates.
Yes.
You should absolutely make that date.
Yes. Yes.
We received a question at Rachel. Governor Newsom recently signed a bill that had relief of fees and fines in traffic cases included. Is any of that going to apply to the clients of Public Counsel or the clients of Inner City Visions?
Good question. I think in theory it should, but I'm on a couple different listservs of different advocates in LA who are doing work in the traffic space. And I think there was some concern that something similar was tried several years ago, but it wasn't very accessible. It wasn't like a automatic, forgiveness. People had to apply and there were some bureaucratic hurdles in getting that relief. So I think that was a concern that advocates had with this time around, that even though it sounds great in theory, it might not be implemented in a way that was extremely accessible to people facing these fees and fines. So I guess I'd say it remains to be seen, but I'm hopeful, it might make some difference. It might come down to how it's implemented.
Great, thank you. If there's anything you think of that the clinic can do to help with on the implementation piece or accessibility piece, let us know.
Great.
Okay, let's see. Any other questions from the audience? I know we're just about to the end of our time, but I want to make sure we've answered everything. Oh, yes. What is the success rate of these ticket cases that you and your team handle, Rachel?
So I'd say that my colleague who really helped build this practice, she was a fellow here named Lauren Zach, and she just left us, unfortunately, but she had 100% success rate. And I don't want to hold that up as the model for everyone, because some of that is luck, right? A lot of her cases got dismissed because even if they went to trial, the police officer didn't show, or she was able to convince the police officer not to oppose her request for dismissal. So it's not always going to happen. I'd say at the arraignment stage, it's definitely not that high, maybe more like 50 to 60%. It really varies depending on the judge, unfortunately. And, we handle tickets from all over LA County. So a lot of it is dependent on the particular judge. But I'd say at the end of the day, the ones that we, have to take all the way to trial, we end up having a pretty high success rate.
Wow, 100% is definitely intimidating. But it's also so inspiring. It's the idea, there are very few, I think, pro bono endeavors that you can go into knowing that your likelihood of success is very, very high. And it sounds like, we can provide that encouragement to our volunteers, which is fantastic.
And I say, even if you don't get a full dismissal, you can also argue for a reduction in fines and fees based on the client's inability to pay. So, it's possible to still get a result that's positive, even if it's not a full dismissal.
Absolutely. All different types of victory, right? Okay. Any other questions from the audience? Okay. And I don't have any more in my feed. So thank you all so much for speaking today. And those of you who attended, we really at BHBA are so excited about this clinic and the potential impact it can have. Really encourage those of you watching to sign up using the form so that we can reach out to you and get you a pro bono case, get you linked up first with Rachel's fantastic training and training from ICV as well, to make sure that we're going in with cultural competency and a real understanding of the families that we're trying to help. So thank you in advance to Rachel and Alfred and others who are going to provide their time to really get our volunteers completely up to speed. And thank you to our future volunteers in the audience for your willingness to participate. I hope to be one of them myself. And I really look forward to hearing about all of the wonderful outcomes that I think can really make a direct and meaningful impact in the lives of the people that Inner City Visions and Public Counsel are already serving. Thank you all.